Factorio is a game about automation. Your main goal is to build and send a rocket into space. To do so, you'll have to build a factory. In normal mode, you'll also have to defend yourself from constant incoming alien attacks. Now you're starting the game with almost nothing on you, and you have to start building everything from the ground up. Let's get started. When creating a new game, you can choose between playing the tutorial, free play, or you can choose a game scenario. We'll be playing free play as it's the intended way of playing Factorio. On this screen, you can modify the map generation settings or choose an existing preset. For example, Death World will make the game a lot harder by increasing the amount of alien bases and the evolution factor. This is a very challenging game mode. The Rail World preset makes the ore patches rarer but bigger in size. This is ideal if you want to play around with having huge rail lines and a lot of trains. If you wish for a more peaceful experience, you can go into the enemy tab and disable the enemy bases. This will entirely remove the aliens from your world, just like playing peaceful mode in Minecraft, for example. We'll be playing with the default preset. You can click preview to get a preview of your map. What you want to look for is having ore patches close together near the center of the map, and ideally also close to a water source. Make sure that the enemy bases are also not too close to the starting area and that you don't have too many cliffs blocking your way. In this case, this looks like an ideal starting area, but if you're unhappy with yours, you can click on the random seed button until you find something you like. When you're done, click play. Now, before we begin, let's have a look at the inventory and crafting screen. Press E to open your inventory. The left pane is your inventory and the right pane is the crafting pane, and it's organized in 4 categories. You have logistics, production, intermediate products, and combat. Left click an item to craft it, right click to craft 5, and if you shift click, you'll craft as many as you have the components for. If the ingredients are shown in yellow, it means you can craft the item, but you'll have for the ingredients to be crafted first. In this case, the gear wheels. An item with a red background cannot be crafted from your inventory. For brick, for example, you need to smelt 2 stone in a furnace. Okay, now let's discuss basic controls. You can use left click to place an item on the ground, and also left click to interact with it. Whilst holding the object, you can click and drag across the screen to place several objects at once. To cancel placement, press Q. You can hold right click on an object to remove it, and also on an ore patch to mine it. Q also works as a selection tool to quickly grab an item out of your inventory. Pressing Alt will toggle an indication overlay that not only shows the recipe set in the assembling machine, but also the inserted directions and the chest content. Pressing Ctrl and left click on a chest will place a stack of the item in the container. You can also use the same key press to remove all items from a chest. By the way, this also works with holding down the key press and dragging the mouse to grab from several sources at once. Pressing Ctrl and right click will do the same as before, but this time with only half the stack. For example, I'm holding 50 splitters in my hand. If I Ctrl and right click on this chest, I'm placing 25 in the chest. Now if I Ctrl and right click on the chest, I'm taking again half of it out of the chest. Pressing Y will drop the selected item on the ground. This can be very useful early game to quickly put coal or wood inside your furnaces. F can be used to pick up any items on the ground. You can use shift click to place a ghost block. This can be very useful in early game to plan out your base. And finally, you can use Ctrl and C to copy a selection of your base and just click to place down the ghost blocks. The quick bar acts as a shortcut to items in your inventory. Selecting an item and clicking on a free slot in your quick bar will bind the shortcut. You can then use the numbers 1 through 9 to select the item from your quick bar. Use your middle mouse button to remove a filter. You can cycle through your quick bars using Shift and 1 through 9, but most players prefer to use an alternative method of having more active quick bars. To do so, press Escape, go to Settings, Interface, and slide up the Active Quick Bars option. Okay, now that you know the basics of the game, let's actually begin playing the game. Our first milestone for today will be setting up a basic electrical plant because you'll need a lot of power to supply your base. First things first though, let's have a look at our map and locate the nearest patches. So we are here and the patches are up north over there. So let's head this way. And whilst we are on our way, we can actually mine those rocks. They will give us a bit of stone that we'll need to build the furnaces. And we can also mine those dead trees to pick up some wood, which we'll need later on. Okay, now let's start by placing down a burner mining drill on this iron ore patch. This miner requires a power source to function, so let's give it some coal. Now the miner will mine the ore and place it down wherever the arrow points. Oh, and don't forget to press Alt to turn on the overlay. We can rotate the mining drill by pressing R on it, but the machine can only place one item on the ground and it will cease to function for as long as the item occupies the tile. So let's go ahead and add a furnace in front of it. Also give it some fuel. The furnace will smelt the iron ore into iron plates, and remember that we can click on the furnace to pick up the iron plates inside. Okay, so mining the coal by hand is a bit tedious, so here's an easy trick you can do in the beginning. You can actually place down a burner mining drill and place another one facing each other, and this way when given some coal it will mine and place the coal into the other mining drill and create a loop. And because they have an inventory, they will be able to hold some coal inside. Now what you can then do is click on them, and this will automatically give you the coal from the inventory, which you can then use to power your iron smelters. You can then expand your coal production by adding even more mining drills. Just make sure to keep the loop going. Now that we have run out of stone, let's actually go ahead and start placing a miner here on the stone patch so we can actually start mining this too. This time, however, we'll store it into a chest. Let's put some coal inside, like this. And we're back. You'll notice that I also started mining into the copper patch. We are basically doing the exact same setup that we have going for the iron. So now that we have gathered some basic materials, we can also begin crafting the items needed for our electrical plant. So we'll need 2 steam engines, 1 boiler, a few pipes, a few electric poles, at least 1 electric mining drill, an offshore pump, a burner inserter, and a few transport belts. So let's grab these materials, and we can use the steam engines to produce electricity, but they require water to function. So let's head over here. Now in Factorio, water is infinite, so you don't have to worry about it running out. Resource patches, on the other hand, have a limited amount of ore. We can see here, for example, that this iron ore patch, for example, contains approximately 431,000 ores. So let's place down the offshore pump first, and notice how the game highlights the tiles on which I can place my offshore pump. I'm going to place it down here. And now I'd like to add my steam engines over here, but as you can see, this water here is going to get in the way, so I can actually use my pipes here to create some distance between my pump and my setup. Now we can actually place down the boiler. Now with the boiler, make sure to place it down the wrong way, the correct way, and make sure that the water sources, the water lines are connected. You can then add your 2 steam engines over here on top. And now your character won't be able to cross certain block types. For example, these pipes here are blocking my way, so what I can do instead is use these pipes to ground. You can find them in the logistics tab right next to the pipes. They are a bit more expensive to produce, but we can actually use those instead, and they will not hinder our movement as much. You will be able to cross the path. Okay, so you might now be asking how this works exactly. Well, you simply fuel the boiler with a fuel source, like for example coal, and it will heat up the water into steam, and the steam engine will then convert the steam into electricity. We can now use the burner inserter here to feed coal into the boiler. And now, unlike the yellow inserter, this burner inserter works by consuming fuel to power itself in order to function. This is useful here in the beginning because we don't have electricity just yet. Now, to bring the coal, we'll be using these transport belts. These will move any items placed on them around. Notice that they have a direction indicated here with the yellow arrows, and they don't actually require power to function, they will always run. So let's draw a line up to the coal patch. Okay, so this time we want to automate the coal mining process, so we'll use the electric mining drill instead of the burner mining drills. Now, a few things worth mentioning here is that you can only place those on an actual ore patch. The game won't allow you to place them anywhere else. Another thing worth noting is that it will mine anything that's within the blue square, and so you have to be careful if you have a situation like this here where you have actual overlapping ore patches, because if you actually were to place the mining drill here, you can see on the right side of the screen on the information panel that this will also mine into the iron ore, and if you place your miner drill like this, it's going to essentially clog your system by placing the incorrect ore onto the belt. So let's make sure that we only mine coal, and now we can connect this up using the small electric poles. So what you're going to do here is place one down, and then you can actually hold down the mouse button and drag it all the way back to your steam engines. Now this is going to require a bit of coal in order to kickstart the system, so let's put some into this boiler and let's watch the magic happen. And there you go. So as long as you're feeding coal into the boiler, it's going to produce electricity for you. And that is our first milestone done. We now have electricity running. Now that we have power running, we can begin researching more advanced technologies. Research in Factorio is a very big part of the game. It works by processing science packs in the lab. There are 7 tiers of science packs in total, each requiring different components to make. Now to craft the most basic pack, open up your inventory, head into the Intermediates Products category, and there you'll find the Automation Science Pack. You will notice by looking at the recipe that these are quite easy to make. They do however take some time, so let's start crafting a few. You'll need at least 10 to begin, and you'll also need a lab that you can find in the production tab here all the way at the bottom. Once done, place down your lab and make sure that it's connected to a power source. Then you can place your automation science packs into the lab, and you can press T to open up the research menu. Now the bottom left pane lists all the available technologies in yellow. Red means that you lack the prerequisites to research, and the right pane shows the technology tree for the selected technology. The top left pane shows a more detailed view of the selected research. For example, researching automation will take 10 seconds per pack, and that 10 times. In other words, it will take 10 packs and 100 seconds to research. Now if you have 2 labs, you divide that by 2, and so it will only take 50 seconds to research. Now you can start researching in any order you want. If you are playing on a dev world, for example, you may want to start with the gun turrets or the military research. But in our case, we'll start with the automation. Researching automation will give us access to the assembling machines and the long-handed inserters, and we can use the assembling machines to craft items for us so we don't have to do it manually. Okay, so now that the research is done, we can immediately continue researching something else. In our case, we'll be going for the logistics next, because that will give us access to the underground belts and splitters, which are useful for more advanced belt connections. And you will also notice that we can now craft the long-handed inserters and the assembling machines. So let's craft a few of those. Now that we have assembling machines, we can actually start building our very first automated machine, and to do so we'll simply place one of these right here and one of those machines over here. Now we can use the inserters to feed items from one machine into the other, just like so. Place down a chest here to feed the components inside, and we'll set up this machine to start making automation science packs for us. So let's select the recipe, and now this needs copper plates and gears, so we can set this machine up to produce iron gears for us. Don't forget to connect it to a power source, and now if we place iron plates and copper plates into this chest, you will see that the inserters will now start putting the components into the machine. Alright guys, and that is it for this first guided video series on Factorio. I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I'll see you soon in the next episode.